In the first section of the rhythm guitar style of Eldon Shamblin, we're going to take a look at some of the foundations of his playing. This will mainly be the main chord shapes he plays out of. If you're familiar with the cage system or cowboy chord shapes, we're going to be moving most of these chord shapes up and down the neck. For the examples, we're going to be in the key of D. I find this is a great key to learn because most of the chord shapes that Eldon plays out of fall really nicely in between the 2nd to 12th fret, so we won't really have to be playing in the open position or past the 12th fret too much. Let's take a look at example 1 on our PDF, C chord shape movement, descending. So this is the idea of taking your open C chord and just moving it up 2 frets into the key of D. We've got the 1, 3, 5, and 1. Now if you look at the next part of the example, we're going to move down the bass. So we've got the 1. If you go down a half step, we have a C sharp, the major 7. If we go down another half step, we have the flat 7, the C note. If we go down another half step, we have the 6, the B. And if we go down a whole step, we have the A note, the 5th, or because in the key of D we can do an open. So get familiar with that. We have 1, 7, flat 7, 6, 5, or 5. This is going to be kind of the basics of moving these chord shapes around and moving these bass notes. So if you look at the next thing, that's exactly what we're going to do. In measure 3, we're going to play this D note and then the rest of the chord. From there, we're going to shift down to the C sharp, the major 7, and play the rest of the chord. Now the flat 7, the C, and the rest of the chord. The B, the rest of the chord. The A, the rest of the chord, or open A, and the rest of the chord. Now let's talk about the fingerings of this. We've got the D chord like so. This next thing, what I do is I flip my 4th and 3rd finger on the strings. So I bring my 3rd finger to the 5th string, excuse me, and my 4th finger to the 4th string. From there, I bring my 2nd finger to the 5th string for the C, and I bring my 3rd finger to the 2nd string for the D. That is the D with the C in the bass. It's also just a D7 chord. From there, to get to the B in the bass, I just play a B minor chord. Really, it's a B minor 7 because we have the A. So I just play B, F sharp, A, D. And then for the A in the bass, I just think, here's my D chord, just move your pinky over to the A, or open. So let's do that slowly. We've got D, C, C sharp, C, B, A. Practice this really slowly because this is the fundamental part of his playing. So that's the basic movement out of the C chord shape. Now we're going to go up to the next chord shape you would use. I call this the G chord shape if you're familiar with the cage system. It's right here. This is our D chord. It's essentially just playing like a G chord, but moving it all the way up to the 10th fret. Now I never really fret it like this. Typically I'll play the A, D, and F sharp on across the 7th fret barred, and then we'll play with the bass notes here. So we've got this. Now let's take a look at everything we have when it comes to bass notes here. So the first bass note we have is just with the F sharp in the bass. The second bass note we have is with the E in the bass. The third would be the D in the bass. 4th, the C sharp in the bass. 5th, the C in the bass. And then sometimes, very rarely, we'll see, in this case, we'll see the B in the bass. So we've got, in numbers, the 3, 2, 1, major 7, flat 7, and sometimes the 6. So again, like this, familiarize yourself with playing just down the scale like that. That will be the next chord shape and kind of the foundations of his playing. From there, we're going to move up to the E chord shape. So this is right here at the 10th fret too, just the other way around. We've got 10, 12, 12, 11, 10, 10. I rarely hold that whole chord down. And if you don't know where this is derived from, you could think of your open E chord and you're just moving it all the way up to the 10th fret. Or you could think of an F chord, if that's what you learned first, an F bar chord, and you're just moving it up to the 10th fret. So our bass notes here, we've got the 1 obviously. Now we're going to ascend. If you look at the little parentheses, it's the E chord shape, ascending. We have an F sharp, so D, F sharp, and then we've got an A. So it's just 1, 3, 5, the basic triad of the chord. Now what's cool is if we harmonize it, we've got the D, the rest of the chord. If you don't want that full chord, which I was saying earlier, I don't fully do, I just think of it as the 12, 11, and 10. I omit the A. So you could do it like this even with your thumb. From there, I'm moving up to the F sharp. That's how I'll grip that one. So I've got my thumb for the D, and then there's the triad on top. Now I'm going to move my first finger to the F sharp, and then I use my pinky to grab the root, and then line them up as so. And then with the A in the bass, I just have my third finger holding on the A. So I've got D, F sharp, A. So these are mainly the 3 chord shapes we're going to play out of. And there's going to be some connecting stuff, but once again, let's just review it quickly. We've got our C chord shape, D, C sharp, C, B, A. 1, major 7, flat 7, 6, 5. Now we're going to move up to our G chord shape. We've got our 3, our 9, our 1, major 7, flat 7, 6. Or F sharp, E, D, C sharp, C, B. Then up here at the one we just did, here's our E chord shape. We've got our 1, 3, 5, or D, F sharp, A. Now let's move on to the second page of this. Here we can take, it's still in the E chord shape, but it's the upper extension of it. This is something that he does quite a bit, and I still categorize it all within this shape. We're going to take just the triad, D, F sharp, and A, and we're going to descend with it. So this is the E chord shape descending. We've got the D, F sharp, A. Now here's our bass note. Let's move it down a half step. C sharp, F sharp, A. So there's that major 7. C, F sharp, A. It's the flat 7. B, F sharp, A. That's the 6. And then we can keep going down. There's our A over the C, F sharp, A. So that's still a 7th chord. Or if we want to, we can just make it straight major. Remove the C and add the D. So we've got or. So one more time through that. D, C sharp, C, B, A, or or A with the major behind it. So let's take a run through that, starting with the very lowest note. We can go D, F sharp, A. Now we can move up to the next octave, the D, and go D, C sharp, C, B, A. So we have two options within that E chord shape, ascending or descending. All right, now let's move on to example 5. This is the A chord shape ascending. Now, I don't really count this as totally part of his foundations of playing. This is more of like a passing thing. It's not a fully complete descending bass line or ascending bass line. And it's something he would just use entirely less, but still quite important. We have our A shape, like this so. So this is just taking, imagine your A chord, just moving it up to your D. What we can do to create some passing lines, we can play D, and then in single notes, it's E, F sharp, I'm sorry, E, F, F sharp, excuse me. So we have D, E, F, F sharp. Now the way we can harmonize that is D, E minor, F, but really it's a G sharp diminished chord, and I'll come right back to that. And then we've got a D with an F sharp in the bass. So the way in which that works, this diminished chord is just a passing chord between E minor and D with the F sharp in the bass. There is some more kind of theory behind that, which we're going to get into in section 3. But for now, just know that if you have a chord like the E minor that needs to go up a whole step, and you've got the step in the middle, you can play a diminished chord 9 times out of 10, and it works just fine as just a passing chord. So listen to it and just get that in your ear. We've got D, E minor, diminished, D. Now to take it one step farther, we can change this F sharp, or the F sharp in the bass, to an F sharp minor chord. It's got all the notes that are in D, and it just has some prettier extensions. So we could go D, E minor, diminished, F sharp. So you've got two options for that one. So let's talk some more about using a diminished chord and passing to kind of connect some chords. So we're going to look at example 6. This is called diminished chord 1 to 5. We're going to play the D to an A chord, or in the key of D, it's our 1, our A chord is our 5. So we're going to work out of this chord shape here. So we're going to play just down all the way to the C. But instead of just going like that, we're going to approach it. We're going to go D, C sharp, B, C, and we're going to build our diminished chord off that. So it's going to sound like this. And to our A with the C sharp in the bass. So at full speed, so what we're doing here, just playing the D chord, then we have the C sharp in the bass, the B in the bass, and now on this C, we're thinking we're approaching the C sharp note. So we need that little half step passing note, right? So drop your C with the diminished in it to resolve into A. So your diminished chord is built of minor thirds. So what that means is if you take this C note, play up 1, 2, 3 frets. So 1, 2, 3. All right. So C to E flat, there's a minor third. E flat, F sharp, there's a minor third. F sharp to A, there's a minor third. That's how you construct those. Now you can do those across the strings, but that's a little over the objectives of this course. But what we've got here is C, F sharp, A, E flat. All the notes we just outlined in that diminished. And then that falls right into our A chord. So again, don't overcomplicate it. Just think if we've got a half step we need to play through, use your diminished chord. So again, B in the bass, C in the bass, A. I also want to show you what it sounds like when you don't make it diminished, just so you can have that as a reference point too. So if we're playing B in the bass, now this is just like a D7 chord. It doesn't pull me as much. That's why we use the diminished. There's a little more tension in there that wants to be resolved. So again, that example 6. Now we're going to use the same kind of use of a diminished chord, but we're going to act like we're in the key of A now, starting on the D. So the D will be the 4 chord now, right? So if we're in A, it's A, B, C sharp, D. We're going to work out of this shape right here, and then keep moving down and resolving into this A chord at the 5th fret. So what we're setting up, I'll play it here first. We've got so we're just taking this idea of our ascending from here, but descending from it. So we're playing F sharp in the bass for the D chord. We've got an E minor chord as passing. We resolve down to this D chord. And then we're building a D sharp diminished off of this. In Western swing music quite a bit, as well as just swing music in general, a common progression is going 4, sharp 4 diminished, 1. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We've got the D major, sharp diminished, to 1. Then in the loop of everything, we've got and it resolves quite nicely. So one more time, F sharp in the bass, E in the bass, D in the bass, D sharp in the bass, and then if you want to, again, to piggyback on the chromatic half step thing, D, D sharp, E. Really, you don't even have to think of the 4 sharp 4 thing. You're really just filling that little half step with the diminished chord to resolve into the A chord. All right, so the next one that's really important outside of diminished are using minor 4 chords. It's just another way of getting us from 4 back to 1. So just like we did, we're going to act like we're in the key of A now, and we're going to use a D to a D minor to get us back to an A chord. So again, we're going to use this ascending idea, the D, E minor, F sharp, and we're going to add the minor 4 at the end to it to get us back to home base. So this is what that will sound like. All right, so this one, again, it revolves in half steps. Essentially, you know, we're doing the D, E minor, and then we're playing F sharp, F, E. So we're using those half steps in the chromatic to get us back. You can technically use diminished chord in this case, but a cool thing to do just to mix up your sound is to use a minor chord. So from the D minor chord, we're going to take just the minor chord shape we all know, and really you can imagine it's just like an A minor moved up, and then take your pinky and add the F to it. And that will resolve us a half step into the A with the E in the bass. So you've got D, E minor, D with the the F sharp, D minor with the F in the bass, back to A with the E in the bass. So that's just another way of doing that chromatic step without using a diminished chord and adding some more color to your kind of templates of playing. So what I would do is take all of these little movements and just shed them. Practice just going. Then now try an ascending. Now you're in this next shape, try descending. Then move up to the next one. Then the next one. And so on. And that's really how I got these things into my fingers, was just trying to move the shapes through each other. And you don't have to think of it totally as a bass line, just get it as these are the notes that are moving down or moving up around the major chord shape. And that will get you really far in this style. So what we're going to do in this next section is take a look at the Western Swing Standard, Stay All Night, Stay a Little Longer, and move all of this information we just learned to the key of G and see how these chord shapes just translate right over and how we can address these changes using some of these basic type of just chord movements. So look forward to that and click on the next section. We'll begin.